we had this episode of, they said it was like a seizure-like episode of
Mm-hmm.
where I would be fine, and then the next minute my blood pressure would be 170s because I had an arterial line in, but I would be out of it. Like I would just stare. I didn't know what was going on.
That's
Um,
scary. Hi everyone, what you're about to watch was filmed before I had a double lung transplant. I'm Chloe Temtchine, I'm a singer and a songwriter, and for the past 12 years I've been living with pulmonary hypertension. It's a true miracle that I'm alive today. I created Super Brave Kids because I believe that children who are living with chronic health conditions have the answers to some of life's most challenging questions, which is why I call this series of interviews Life Lessons from Super Kids. Join us as we interview kids from all over the world who have one thing in common. They're all superheroes disguised as kids. Please help me welcome today's guest. So let's start by just having you tell us who you are.
so I am Sarah. I'm 19 and I've had pulmonary hypertension since I was 4.
Wow.
Yeah, it's idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension, which is high blood pressure in the lungs, and it can eventually lead to heart failure just because of all the stress.
Now, since you
Uh,
were 4 is a very
yeah,
big deal. So you've kind of only known life with this.
I mean, so I've always been sick, so
Mm-hmm.
I've lived my life knowing being sick. I had seizures and like I would black out totally blue. So I think they said that's a part of it, but while at the neurologist, he listened to my heart and there was a murmur, and then he said you need to go to the cardiologist, and that's when we found it. So I think they said seizures were like a little tiny smidge of pH,
But they helped you to essentially
but
diagnose.
yeah, but they
Yeah.
helped getting diagnosed. Yeah, I think it started like at 3 and then I was diagnosed at 4. When I was diagnosed, I was on IV,
Okay.
um
IV therapy, yeah.
Flolan, and then that helped with getting stable, and then like moving to South Carolina, and then I went on Tyvaso after that.
I have it right here.
Then I went on a Renogram. um I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on a Renogram and then sub-Q, then I'm back on IV. So I think like the early like 4, maybe like to 12, I
Yeah.
was stable, I was doing good.
Hmm.
And then now kind of things have progressed and just getting worse and not feeling well.
Now, just so that people can understand what it means to be worse in a situation like this, is it just to kind of describe to us how it is to be you, like on a daily basis?
So I just had a surgery in March. That was supposed to help things. What I had done is I have an ASD. It's like a pop-off valve, so you can relieve those pressures like in the lungs to like give the heart some time and the lungs some time. So I have that, and then it started closing. So what we did in March was, I went to Denver. I
Mm-hmm.
was there for a month. So I had a heart cath, and they placed a device so that my body can rely on that pop-off valve and having that to release some pressures. And I have severe passing out episodes.
Yeah.
Like I had probably like over 20 in Denver. And I think one of them, I was unconscious for like over 6 minutes. And
Wow.
so we have no idea why that is either. I mean, I think they're saying because of the low oxygen levels and the pressures, you shut down and then you go unconscious. But yeah,
That's so scary.
one of them, I was on my driveway when it happened, and my head was just murdered from the
Do
gravel.
you know what's going to happen? Like, can you sit and then not fall down?
So I've had a couple where I can feel it, and so like I try to sit down.
Yeah.
And then I think the more recent ones from March, and then right now is come out of nowhere.
Oh, Sarah,
It's so
scary. It's so scary. But you're
it is.
amazing, and you go through it like with a smile. And I know I imagine really, really difficult, you know? I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
I know that it's difficult. How does that actually make you feel?
It feels horrible because like I see like my friends and like my sister, and they have like a life of doing a job and working. It's really hard because you just sit in your house, and then it's so frustrating that you feel so horrible you can't do anything. Um, so it's probably the hardest thing of having pulmonary hypertension is just the limits of what you can do.
Are you able to think future? Like, do you think for yourself, okay, this is now and I will get better and I'll find a
Yeah.
way to have a future? Or do you feel like you can't even let yourself see into the future?
I think I'm kind of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the future of like my dream is to move to Florida to work at Disneyland,
Yes, I love
Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then that is my absolute dream. And then like a day later, I mean, I can't even walk right now. So yeah, it's a mix up, but I do dream because I mean,
Yes.
you want to let yourself have that dream.
What would you say is your greatest fear?
So probably having to like leave like the people you love behind,
Yeah.
having just in knowing pulmonary hypertension, just how severe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so like days I'll just sit there, and I mean that's my greatest fear is having, hopefully it never happens, but having to leave the ones you love, and if they'll be okay like when you're gone, or so that's probably the biggest fear. Yeah.
What is your greatest challenge?
My greatest challenge probably is living with a chronic illness and that day-to-day life and living in a world where people really don't understand kids or anyone with a chronic illness and how much it changes their life and changes their world. So I would say probably living in a world with chronic illness and people don't quite understand it.
And what do you think this challenge has taught you about yourself?
It has taught me my pure determination to outlive the strength of overcoming pH and doing the things you love and not letting pH take that away.
If I were to say like, okay, give me your 3 superpowers or your 4 superpowers, like what would you say those actual superpowers are?
Probably determination.
Mm-hmm.
Strength, and then just the pure joy of finding things in the little things, finding joy in little things.
Have you by chance come up with a superhero name?
I have.
You have? Okay.
So this year, I'll do like a little backstory. Okay. So this year I have probably had the most trying time.
Mm-hmm.
This year has emotional and physical. It's been the worst year for me. And so I have conquered the hardest things that anyone could go through. Like what, I've been dealing with, like no one should go through that. So I would just conquering that. So probably conqueror would be the
conqueror. I like that.
Yeah.
So now comes the important stuff. That was all unimportant. Obviously, people are going through a lot. I talk about chronic illness, I talk about this and that, but just people living their life. Like people are going through a very hard time in general. What can you tell somebody who's going through a really challenging time?
Going through the hardest time of your life is going to be where you learn the most powerful lessons. And then if it gets so much and you need help, to ask for it. It's okay to ask for help. And then, what the greatest thing for me is, you will, when you come out on the other side, you will be beyond proud of by saying I got through that.
I love it. And if there's, I mean, I'm guessing that the last question is if there's anything that you haven't, or anything I haven't asked you that you'd want to share.
You know, doing something that you love. So I went hiking for the first time last year. I had my oxygen on. It was Hanging Rock in North Carolina.
Okay.
I told my team, I was like, you know, I need this for my mental health right now. I just need to go hike for the first time. So, you know, just doing the little things. The little things is my favorite, like, quote, live life, and then, you know, knowing your boundaries.
Well, I'm so happy to have you. So happy to have you on the show. Super gracious. And I'm glad you have this mission of going to Disneyland and working at Disneyland. That's wonderful that you have that.
Yeah.
And that's my hope for you. And I just hope that you get better, you know, and I know they're coming
out so too.
They're coming out with many new things.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So thank you, Sarah, and good luck.
Thank you
With everything.
You too. Yeah.